Hello, and welcome back to Let's Play Unrest. My name is Marlo, and I know it's been a couple of days since we've had an episode here, but we're back as Shyam, the mercenary captain, and I believe that we still need to talk to the paymaster and the messenger, and we may need to talk to some of these other people too. I honestly don't recall, so we'll just talk to these guys and let's see what happens. Alright, here's Laxmi's messenger. Oh, let's see what these people have anything to tell us. Vijay has some nerve, letting the rabble stay in the palace grounds like they're nobility. Vijay has neglected the upkeep of the palace, and the city hasn't gotten better either. Okay. Alright, let's talk to the messenger. Alright, this is Laxmi's messenger. Counselor Shyam, my mistress Laxmi wanted me to speak with you. She requires your assistance on a few matters. If you're willing to cooperate with her, she'll ensure some extra considerations find their way to your men. Given the tight council budget and the rising cost of food, could be a bit of a morale boost for them, couldn't it? Okay, I could say, write this down. Too bad. Then sign it for me. I could be collected and say, yeah, sure, what's the matter? Or I could be conciliatory and say, she can wait. I've got business of my own to take care of. Well, I'm interested in what he has to say, so let's pick number 2 here so he'll tell us what's going on. Well, firstly, now that you've checked in with your scouts, she'd like a general update on how things are going in the slums. Put in your own words. I could be blunt and say death all over, be collected and say could be worse, or I could be sarcastic and say, fine, thanks for asking. I don't think we've actually talked to the scouts. If we have, I don't remember. So I think I'll say, could be worse. Very well. Secondly, she would like to petition for military assistance. I gather some recent events have left things a trifle uneasy down there, although, she stresses, not as bad as they could be. The extra guard would be responsible for protecting her family. I could be collected and say she can have one squad, take one from the reinforcements here. I could be blunt and say I can't spare men for any might-be-a problems, not when half the city's on fire. Or I could be wry and say as long as she doesn't mind them passing me information, sure. Well, I guess I'll let her have a squad. Alright. After having surveyed the preliminary defensive plans, my mistress would also like to respectfully point out that there's a hole in the defensive line. You protect nearly all the city from the slums, but they might, if they waited for a break in patrols, rush the main gate. Since that is where Mistress Laxmi brings in the farm's crops from, this is a problem. My only choice is to say, can't help her. Next. Okay. We're a little ahead of you on this one. One of your scouts from the outlying territory stopped by Laxmi on his way to see you, and she's given the message to me to pass on. Evidently, your outriders have picked up some fugitives of hers. She'd like you to turn over the prisoners for execution. Oh, my. I suspect that would be Tanya, and her friend, who we caused her to escape early on in the Let's Play. I feel somewhat responsible for her. Okay, I could be collected and say if it'll make her happy, sure. Send her the bastards with our compliments. Let's see. Prisoners are unwieldy. We'll execute the men and send back their bodies. I'm not going through all that for the sake of a couple of prisoners. I'm sending word to my outriders just to turn them loose. Now, see, this is where it's kind of, the problem comes in with this game, which I really like this game, let me say that. But the problem is that I know that the fugitives that Laxmi's talking about are most likely Tanya and Juhi, and we're the reason that they left. I am the reason that they left. I made those decisions. I wanted something better for her than the horrible marriage that she was about to be forced into. And so now I'm faced with a tricky decision. Do I play this out as if I am, the player and know all the things that the player knows, or do I do what this guy might do himself, not knowing anything that we know from playing other characters? It's really hard. I mean, I'm very tempted to cut them loose right here because, because I liked Tanya. I wanted good things to happen to her. And so I'm tempted to do this, even though I'm not entirely sure that this is what this character would do in this situation. Gosh, I'm also... I just don't know. I think I'm going to say that we'll execute the men and send back their bodies, because if the prisoners are who I think they are, they're not men. Let's see what happens if we say this. It's 2 peasant girls, actually, but I'm sure Laxmi appreciates whatever you can do to help her. That's all, I believe. I wish you the best of luck. Well, we may have just killed Tanya. That's lovely. Alright. But, I'm not sure that Shyam would turn these prisoners loose, not knowing who they were. So, I don't know. I kind of feel like I had to do something other than, say, let them go. Even though that's what I, the player, really wanted to do. Alright, let's talk to the payroll master. I've got the budgets Vijay has prepared. He would have brought them to you personally, but he wanted me to double-check the coffers before bringing this to your attention. Are you ready to discuss your men's payment? I could be calm and say I'm listening. I could be blunt and say hold up, I've got other problems to deal with first. I could be blunt and say discuss, pay my men. That's all there is to discuss. I think I'll say I'm listening. Let's see what he has to say. Yes, well, there's no good way to say this. The budget is tight. Trade with the Naga Empire has suffered badly, and lately, nobles have been demanding funds to raise and maintain their own fighting men as defensive measures. We won't be able to pay your men their usual salary. We'll pay them enough to feed themselves and their families, but that's all I can promise. I can be loyal and say it's bitter but fair. These are hard times. I could be pragmatic and say that's not acceptable. My men are risking their lives for the city. Or I could be blunt and say no, do better. I think I'm going to be pragmatic and say my men are risking their lives. They should be paid what they're supposed to be paid. Look at this from our perspective. If the nobles smell trouble, they'll overthrow this city a lot faster than a bunch of starving cripples ever could. We need to guarantee them protection. Now, if you can guarantee me that most of your men will be committed to the defensive line, these are my men, not Vijay's. I won't bow to his demands. I could be proud, say that. I could be loyal and say fine. If that's what I have to do to take care of my men, I promise. I could be loyal and say I was going to do that anyway. Why doesn't Vijay just talk to me himself? I think I'm going to go with this one right here. I'm glad to hear that. Let us know when the parties for the defensive line are ready to report in. We'll give them their special instructions to double up patrols on noble areas. Yeah, you do that. Saves me the trouble. Easy going. Blunt. No, you'll stay away from my men. Only I give them orders. I could be sharp and say, hold on now. You just said I'd be strengthening the defensive line. You said nothing about only protecting half the city with it. Let's say this right here. I'm sorry. What about what I said was unclear? All of it? We need to keep the nobles happy. That means a strong presence around their domiciles. Frankly, the merchants and any priests besides Ranveers aren't much of a help or a threat to us one way or the other these days. Why would you throw away even half of your men protecting those neighborhoods when it's the nobles threatening a coup? Angry, because my men don't exist for their benefit. Vijay doesn't decide what my men are for. Bitter. Alright, I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. Just pay my men. I can be reluctant and say I hate to say it, but you've got a point. I'm really torn between number 2 and number 3. I think I'll say, all right, I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. Just pay my men. And then I think we're done here. Your men will be paid after tonight. Remember this deal, Cheyenne. All right. I have a new trait, loyal. Cheyenne makes sure his boys get paid. That's right. You got to get paid. Okay. To war. VJ's boy says my men don't get paid what they're owed. Says he needs a promise. I'll put my boys on the defensive line. Our wages are half what they were. Excuse me. I had a hiccup there. Okay. Oh. Where are we? Let's take a look at the map. Okay, there's refugees and a slain Naga. Let's see if we can talk to the refugees. I'm very confused. See if I go this way. Now I'm back here. What? And now I'm here. So how do I get over there to those people? Maybe if I walk around? Oh, are they down here perhaps? They could be. Noble. Jaipal, mercenary, slum dweller, thin man. Oh, mercenary, don't look at me, sir. I didn't decide to let these people inside. Apparently somebody let them through the defensive lines once things started getting out of hand. I could be blunt and say useful. I need better information than what VJ's giving me. Say good. No need to let good people get killed out there. Be commanding and say you can't just let anyone wander into your camp during riots. These could be spies or killers. Get them out of here. Let's be blunt and say useful. I need better information than what VJ's giving me. Yes, sir. As you say, sir. I'll make sure they're brought some food from our supplies. Alright, let's talk to this guy. Jaipal. Everything is happening according to plan, just as I have foreseen it. Third eye shows me the reality of what has happened, guides me, Jaipal, to bear you the truth, like a jar of sweet water. You be careful and say, right. So tell me, what is that truth? You can be patient and say, calm down, you're safe, just take your time. Or I can be blunt and say, I don't have time for this. I think I'll be careful and ask him what this truth is that he would like to bestow upon me. The time for revolution has finally come. The true servants of Banca Mundi, overarching protector of all men, rise to snatch from the false and spiteful jaws of the liar Ranveer the gifts of peace and prosperity. Teeth bare and wolves howl in their dens. I could be baffled and say, what? I could be productive and say, soldier, you want to take a crack at this? I could be blunt and say, I changed my mind, shut up. I think I'll be baffled and say, what? The dog of the deceiver runs along the streets, nipping at the heels of all he encounters. But justice will be swift, oh yes. Soon he will taste the dark, cold milk of defeat. Be tired and say, thanks for this. Be harsh and say, get this man out of my encampment, I don't trust him. I could say, this man obviously needs care, get him some food and blankets, and watch over him. I'm not a bad guy. I think I'll be caring and say, watch him. You're a good man. There are not many good men, not anymore. I know that Banca Mundi will protect you, even as she has protected me. Even as you... Oh, as she has protected me, even as you have protected me now. Sorry, got a little twisted up there. Okay, does this guy have anything to say to us? I'm glad you let me in. It's terror out there. Absolute terror. I'm going to be careful and say, define terror. I need as many details as you can manage. The riots started out of nowhere. It wasn't like anything special happened. As far as I can tell, they just started. Ranveer's priests and Jaydeep's men actually came out to try to stop them for a while. Then, when rioting spread and the mobs grew, Jaydeep's boys started trying to get them even angrier to give them a target. Let's see, I could be blunt and say to turn them against the Naga. I could be cynical and say I guess that's better than leaving them unchecked. And I could be careful and say, and did he succeed? I think I'll choose careful and ask if he succeeded. J-Deep's men were everywhere, controlling everything. Then, I don't know, they seemed to vanish. I saw a few dead in the middle of an empty street without a wound on them. The street gangs figured out pretty quick that nobody was keeping peace, and while I was leaving, they were carving each other and everyone up, but I'd say the Naga got lucky. Be careful, and say good to know. I could be considerate. Say thanks for that, get some food and rest, or I could give this man some money. I think I'm gonna say get some food and rest. I appreciate your help, sir. Today I think I finally realized I don't want to die. Alright, let's talk to the slum dweller, see if she has anything to say to us. I don't know what's going on. I didn't see anything. I just saw the mobs forming and I ran here, and one of your men let me through. Please, I have a cousin here in the city. I was too proud to ask for help, but I know she'd let me come into her home. I could be caring and say, then find your cousin, go on. I could be firm and say, I can't let you loose and I can't afford an escort. You stay here. I could be blunt and say, today is not a day to take chances. Men, see this woman out. Let's tell her to stay here. Oh well, I suppose things could be worse, couldn't they? Thanks for letting me stay. Okay. There's a palace guard, there's a soldier, a mercenary, another soldier. Alright, let's come over here and see if the dead Naga... there's a loitering soldier. Let's see if we can talk to this fellow. Alright. We went into one of the homes, just checking on the perimeter squats, and we saw this Naga bastard go for a weapon. You should have seen us, sir. We brought him down with the poles, just like in training. I could be blunt and say, and kept the body. I assume there's a reason for that. Reassuring, good to know you can do it if you need to. Or I could be critical and say, why would a Naga pull a weapon? They are weapons. I think I'll be reassuring and say, good to know you can do it if you need to. I'd say we'll need to. They're going mad in the slums, sir. I've seen it myself. I could say, fair enough, but that's all that is J-Deep's fault. Remember that. I could be pragmatic and say, my point is, don't pick any fights. I could be sympathetic and say, if you see a Naga going mad, you leave it alone. Chances are, it has a good reason to. I think I'll be pragmatic on this one and say, my point is, don't pick any fights. Yes, sir, understood. Okay. Now, let's see if these other soldiers have anything that they can... Ooh, I can't seem to walk around that board. Greetings, sir. Okay. Nothing's getting through the gate on my watch, sir. You mean this gate that's wide open right here? This one? Okay, noble. Shyam, I appear before you humbly. I am a noble, a landowner, a proud father, and a friend of any servant of this city. I have come to ask you to commit your troops to defending the Naga of the slums. I could be wry and say I would have expected a noble to say, worry about the defensive line. I could be patient and say, all right, I'm listening. I could be blunt and say I have no patience for anyone trying to tell me what to do, particularly a layman. I think I'll hear him out, as I usually do. All right, I have had my eyes opened. I am selfish to hoard my own safety, so long kept at the expense of others, and further endanger the Naga of the slums. My human and Naga allies in the Brotherhood of Friendship are of one mind. If we are ever to show that we are human, I think that's a typo, that we humans are a caring and merciful people, now is the time to do it. I could be realistic and say, I'll remember what you've said. I could be blunt and say, I'm not here for humans, I'm here for VJ, who pays me. What you're asking me to do is betray him. I could be pragmatic and say the refugees don't matter. I won't waste my men or Bimra's future on them. I think I'll be realistic and say I'll remember what you've said. Then go to your work. Just remember, whatever you choose, that future generations are watching. Right. There is that. There's disgruntled soldiers over here, jailer and the assassin, veteran, potential sergeants. Okay, we do need to interview some people for the sergeant's job. Let's see if we can speak to... Okay, I've assembled the men at the mouth of the slums as you ordered, sir. Are you ready to set out? I've still got a sergeant to appoint. Okay, so we're not ready to do that yet. This is where we have to come back to a little later, apparently. Let's go back out this way and see if we can see these other folks on the map here. Okay. Oh, there's a little conversation happening here, and I am kind of coming in on the tail end of it, but let's see if we can talk to a couple of these people. Alright, this is a disgruntled veteran. Cheyenne, what are we still doing here? You weren't born to run cities, you were born to take them. Let them fall down around some other bastards here. Come on, what's wrong with you? I could be threatening and say, like that to me again, and you'll see what I was born for. I could be patient and say, and what is it to you? You get paid either way. I could be disgusted and say, men, this man is drunk, get him out of my sight. I think I'll say, what is it to you? You get paid either way. How long are you going to keep taking Bimra's money, Cheyenne? Until the riots kill everyone? Until the famine does? Until the Naga invasion does? Why don't we get out now and find somewhere else? Or better yet, why don't we take our payment right now out of Bimra's scrawny fingers? I could be threatening and say, you better stop talking right now. I could be blunt and say, lay down your arms, get out of my company. I could be patient and say, I'm going to keep taking their money until Brimmer is right again, then we'll be rewarded in full. I could say, go ahead. I could be reflective and say, go ahead, try looting this city. I promise you that as weak as their guards are, slum dwellers are safer targets. I think I'm going to choose this last one. And say that what he's proposing basically is not a sound strategy. Might be worth it. We fight the guards, we might lose a couple. We fight the slums, the riots, the famine, the Naga. Soon, there's going to be none of us left. We're all thinking it. You've led us to disaster. Now you got to lead us out before it's too late. I could be promising and say, now I've had enough. I could be disgusted and say, just sleep it off. You've disgraced yourself enough for one day. Or I could be blunt and say, so go. Get out of my mercenary company. Let's kick this guy out. I've had enough of his lip. Man, I'm kind of just curious to see what happens if we pick this one. After all the years I put in, after you dragged me halfway across nowhere to end up in this dead city with nothing but a couple of months' pay and a pair of sandals, you owe me more than that. Let's see. I could be promising and say, you're about to get exactly what I owe you. I could be disgusted. Men, make sure he sobers up, then see him out. Is he drunk? Because we keep getting choices that seem to indicate that this man is intoxicated, but he's a disgruntled veteran. He's not a drunk one. We don't have a journal entry on him. I'm going to say, be reflective and say, or I could be reflective and say, I owe you nothing, you made your choices. I think I'll say, I owe you nothing, you made your choices. Yeah, you think about what I said when the slum rats come to gnaw the flesh off your bones. You remember that somebody had the guts to talk sense to you. Okay. Well, that went well, I guess. Oh, we're just talking, sir. It's nothing you need to... Captain, we don't really have to lay down our lives for useless starving street trash, do we? They want to kill each other. What's the point in getting ourselves cut open trying to stop them? I could be blunt and say, what's the point in paying a merc who can't take orders? I could be amicable and say, lay down your lives? Nah, just do your job, but don't take any stupid risks. I could be trusting and say, once you're out there, you're on your own. Do what you think is best. I think I'll be amicable and say, do your job, but don't take any stupid risks. I will. See, Captain Cheyenne gets it. He knows what it's going to be like out there. Going to be a slaughter is what it's going to be like. Okay. Let's... Can we talk to any of these guys? Rajesh is running for sergeant? I don't know a Rajesh. Guess I've never talked to him. Do these guys have anything to say to us? Every time... Oh my, I can't pronounce that name. But apparently that guy doesn't like that guy. So... Okay, well, what about this guy? I wouldn't mind following his orders. How am I going to respect Rajesh as a sergeant when he can't even fight properly? He drills like a sick baby monkey. Veteran, what are all the new kids whining about? This is my kind of campaign. No marching, no foraging, no carrying boxes of embers and skins of water over rocks and rivers and every other kind of nonsense. And best of all, the other side barely has weapons. And as for starving the enemy out, we've already got a head start on that one. Let's see, I could be wary and say my job was easier when the likes of VJ were miles away. I could be easygoing and say, you think you have it better? I don't even have to leave this courtyard. I could be resentful and say, at least back then we knew it was someone else's people we'd be fighting. Which is true. I mean, this is our own people. So I think I'm going to say this last one here. Well, the way I see it, there's not much any of us can do one way or the other. Only reason you're in charge is so you get all the blame when things go bad, right? I could be wary and say, right, you bastard. I could be sarcastic, or I'm here to fix everything. It could happen. Or I could be proud and say VJ keeps me around for a lot of reasons. Let's not get all cynical. I think I'll say this last one. Anyway, you want to know what I think about these sergeant candidates, right? Here goes. Sanjay is a real popular guy. Kind of reminds me of you, back when people still liked you. He's a good leader. He's good leader material, maybe a little too good. I'm going to call this guy Bhupendra. Bhupendra? Okay. Bhupendra's an idealist. You ask me, either that's going to get killed by combat, or a lot of his men are going to be. As for Rajesh, I haven't talked too much to him. Doesn't talk to anyone much, really, but he does a lot of thinking, no doubt about that. Anyway, your call. None of them are perfect, but hey, neither was Mahit, and he managed to do all right. You do the best you can with what you've got, right? You get back to work, Shy. I'll stay here and get my gear together. Okay. Have earned a trait that I'm a hard man, and that Shyam has a well-deserved reputation for toughness. Okay. Let's see if these other soldiers have anything to say to us. As far as I'm concerned, Sanjay's been more of a sergeant than Mahit was. Rajesh has had a couple of ideas that weren't half bad. Sanjay's the only reason I survived my first week. He taught me everything. Don't make Bhupendra sergeant, sir. We'll all regret it. Bhupendra should have been born a priest or a poet or someone's wife. Here's the jailer. We've got two groups of prisoners, sir. Some Naga we found over a pile of dead humans, and a couple of slum gangers who beat up a priest. Just people who surrendered near the defensive line. We'd have to leave men behind to guard them. It'd be better if you could just make the decision to execute them or let them go. I could be commanding and say I'll look them over. I could be commanding and say forget interrogating them, I'll decide right now. I could be commanding and say you figure it out, I've got other things to worry about. Or I could be commanding and say so leave some men behind, they deserve a more carefully considered sentence. Oh my. I think I'm going to say this last one. They deserve a more carefully considered sentence. Sir. Oh, here's the assassin, who I think we're meant to be doing away with, aren't we? The priest was selling bread to the black markets, medicine too. We were sick of it. He had it coming, believe me, he had it coming. Another gang member here. He had it coming. Okay, nothing new there. Please don't kill us, we were so hungry. Let's talk to these Naga. Maybe not. Okay, can't seem to click on that guy. Can we talk to this one? Naga regards you silently. Either it cannot or will not respond. Kill us or don't. Either way, the queen is coming for you. Yeah, that's probably true. Let's talk to the assassin. Cheyenne, nice to see a familiar face. Maybe not so much yours. Is that, sir? The men are saying he's the one who... I could say, I know, men, cut this coward's throat. I could be collected and say, just turn him loose. I don't have time to handle this. I could be collected and say, why did this have to happen now? Go store him somewhere safe. Or I could be collected and say, leave us. I'll speak with him myself. I think I'll speak with him myself. I could say, no offense, but I kind of hoped I'd never have to see you again, especially since VJ ordered his men to kill me right after I'll be collected. I could be collected and say I'll be honest. There's a lot about that day I don't understand. I could be blunt and say I don't have the time or the inclination to reminisce. Just tell me if you're going to be a problem. I could be regretful and say I know, and I thought I'd show you the courtesy of doing this myself. And draw my sword. I think I'm going to say number 1. I'll be honest. There's a lot about that day I don't understand. Yeah. Probably VJ was the only man with all the answers. And we knew that, and we killed a group of innocent people because he said it would make Bimra better. You know, I don't know about you, but I'd like to go to my death knowing a little bit more about the worst thing I've ever done. I could be blunt and say, honestly, I don't really care. I could be unshaken and say, I don't. It had to be done. Good enough for me. Or I could be collected and say, let's trade. I'll ask a question. You ask a question. This one is intriguing. Let's do number 1. All right, your go. Oh my. Why did VJ pick you? Why not anyone else? When did VJ start planning the assassination? He only told me the day before. Who else knew? Did Ranveer? Laxmi? What are you doing here? And what was your incentive? Was he paying you? I'm going to ask when he started planning the assassination. He only told me the day before. I don't even know. He didn't give me much notice either. I worked for him for a while and he sprang it on me at the last minute. I guess the idea was if he didn't tell his allies, they wouldn't have time to panic or betray him or second guess things. But he definitely wanted us involved. I know that much. It meant we were complicit. It meant we would stay loyal. So, why did you let it happen? What did VJ tell you? I could be wry and say that the assassination would pacify the slums long enough for the monsoons to come back, which they didn't. I could be collected and say the royals, he said the royals had it coming, the Naga were their fault, the slums were their fault, they deserved it. Collected, I think all these are going to be collected, no, not entirely. Okay, I could be collected and say that I'd be in charge of law and order in this city. I couldn't stand watching the guards fumble about. I could be blunt and say, VJ offered me money and power in exchange for looking the other way. What was I going to say? No? I could be tired and say, I'm a mercenary. He was paying me. Not much of a question. I think I'm going to go with number 2. I mean, I can really say anything I want here. I mean, I don't know why VJ did it. I think the answer is essentially going to be whichever one I pick. So I'm going to say number 2. He said the royals had it coming. And you bought it, huh? Well, to be fair, so did I. Your turn. Alright, maybe we'll get to ask all these questions. I'm going to say, who else knew? Did Ranveer? Laxmi? I don't know about Ranveer, but Laxmi did. And she either knew or figured out that Jaydeep would try to kill me afterwards. Her men grabbed me right after the assassination. She's been having me rat out traitors on her farms. Believe me, it hasn't been fun. Do you regret, that you were part of it, that we killed them? I could be collected and say no, it was the right move, even if it didn't pay off. I could be blunt and say no, I like where I ended up. I could be regretful and say yeah, they didn't have to die. I could be regretful and say yeah, I don't like the people who've taken control since. Or I could be unshaken and say I don't know why dwell on it. Well... to be honest, I'm tempted to say this one right here. I mean, really, he doesn't seem to like the people who have, in fact, taken over. He doesn't like Ranveer. Laxmi wants to use him like a Kleenex. VJ seems kind of like he's in the same category. Obviously, since these people have taken over, his men are now in danger of their lives, not to mention the fact that the place is falling apart. So I think we're going to say number 4. I don't like the people who've taken control since. That's fair. Some days I feel the exact same way. Then other days I don't know. Your turn. Why did VJ pick you? Why not anyone else? I'm going to ask this question. Well, thanks to him, I was the court spy. It meant I was close enough to attack them on the day, but just in case things went wrong, he had deniability. That's my guess, anyway. Maybe he just didn't want to get his hands dirty. Here's a nasty question. Do you think we're going to make it out of this? Bimra, I mean. I could be blunt and say, nope, honestly, I think this city is doomed. I could be unshaken and say, plenty won't, but the city will keep standing. Best we can ask for. I could be wry and say, I know I will. I've got a lot of men with weapons. I think that I'm going to say, plenty won't, but the city will keep standing. Best we can ask for. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask him what he's doing here. Honestly, what really keeps me up at night is worrying that I killed the king and queen for no good reason. That the peace we'd won was temporary and Bimra would collapse anyway. I guess when I heard the riots were spreading, I had to see for myself. So what's your goal been lately? Lately? I could be collected and say lately, try to help people who can't help themselves. I could be unshaken and say just keeping this place from falling apart, that's all. I could be blunt and say get through this in one piece and with my position intact. Or I could be blunt and say things happen and I react. I think I'm going to go with number 2 here, just keeping this place from falling apart, that's all. Your turn. I'm going to ask what his incentive was, and was he paying you? I was paid, but honestly, I just wanted the riots to stop. VJ made me believe that I, and only I, could restore some peace to the city. Wouldn't you bend your moral standards a little? I could say apparently. I could be blunt and say I don't have moral standards, just objectives, or I could be unshaken and say no, I wouldn't, not on VJ's say-so. I think I'll be wry and say apparently, because that is just the situation that this character really finds himself in. If you could wish death on one person right now, who would it be? I could be... let me try all those words again. I could be blunt and say VJ, he's in power, but he's not what this city needs. I could be blunt and say Rhea. Whatever VJ might think, she's too dangerous. The Naga Empire could crush us on her say-so. I could say Ranveer, but killing him might just make the slums worse. I could say Kanika, the last thing we need right now are rabble-rousers. I could say J-Deep, but killing him just might make things worse. Or I could say, I don't know, I think there's enough killing going on already. Well, this is interesting. I'm not sure why the assassin is asking me this. Although he may be making a play for his freedom, which could make things very interesting. Honestly, you know, I don't remember who Kanika is. I'll confess that. I honestly can't remember who she is. Is she one of the people with Asha? And if so, how does he know about it? Anyway, why is Laxmi not on this list? Anybody else notice that? Honestly, I'm tempted to say VJ. I mean, the place is falling apart under his leadership. And he's the one who had the royals killed, after all. So, I think I'm going to say VJ. He's in power, but he's not what the city needs. Him, huh? He's dangerous, but you have to admit he's good at this. We need more people who are good at this. Your turn. That's all I really wanted to know. Of course, all this is ultimately pointless. We're only ever going to have a couple different perspectives on this whole mess, and you really have to understand every side of it to fix it. That's why VJ was always going to end up ruling this place. I could be blunt and say VJ runs nothing, Laxmi controls the farms, Ranver controls the slums, I control the muscle. I could be right and say you don't need to understand anything as long as you've got the strength behind you, or I could be collected and say, yeah, you're right about that. I think I'm going to be blunt and say that Laxmi controls the farms and so on and so forth. And all of you are on the council because you run those things just the way VJ likes it. Laxmi's a stern taskmistress, so he gives her all the farms to police. Ranveer keeps the slums peaceful right up until he stabs them straight down the Naga's throats, which is exactly what VJ wants to happen. Ree is a coward and a pacifist and unwilling to start a war with Bimra, and you, honestly, I don't know about you, and I'm pretty sure that if you start causing trouble, VJ will find a way to give you the boot. Okay, I could be blunt and say he can try. I could be regretful and say he's welcome to. This isn't what I wanted to spend my old age doing. Or I could be collected and say VJ couldn't. I was complicit in the royal assassination. I'm too risky as an enemy. I think I'm going to say this last one here. See how the assassin responds to that. I'm too risky to have as an enemy. Let's get to the point. You have a lot of priorities right now, and by nobody's estimation am I one of them. I'm harmless. I performed enough assassinations for one lifetime, and I frankly approve of VJ being in power, even though he tried to have me killed. So please just let me go, so I can get out of this city for good. I could be collected and say, yeah, alright. I could be blunt and say, no, I might need you as a bargaining chip against VJ. You can wait in chains. Or I could be regretful and say, all this might be true, but it's a risk. We can't take risks right now. I think I'm going to hold on to him for right now. Yeah, somehow I knew that was coming. Okay. So, we've done that. And we need to talk to these sergeant candidates. So let's start off by speaking to Sanjay. Just say the word, sir. I'm itching to get out there and give the men what they need. I can be commanding and say, you're my man, get ready for duty. I can be blunt and say, I'm in a hurry, you tell me why you deserve the position. I could be collected and say, I've got some questions for you. Answer those before I make my decision. Well, let's see what he has to say. If these men are going to be out there ducking knives, naga, and naughty language, the least they can ask for is an officer they can trust. Ask any of these people who they want to be in command. They know I'm smart, they know I'm loyal, and they know I won't get them killed over something stupid. And if they could say that about any of these other candidates, I'd tell you to pick one of them. As it is, I'm the only soldier these boys actually want to report to. But hey, it's your call. So, what do you think? Let's see. I can say, I think I found my sergeant, get your gear. I can say, I'll let you know when I've thought about it. For now, get back to work. Or I can be collected and say, if you can promise me that you'll follow my orders, whatever your own reservations are, I'll take you. I think I'll be blunt and say I'll let you know when I've thought about it, so I can talk to these other guys. Let's speak to this Bhupendra guy. A lot of the others don't seem to like him. Sir, I'm exactly what this city needs, sir, I promise you. Make me your sergeant and I'll protect this city better than any man ever could. Okay, I could say strong words, but bold. Get a belt from the armory, you're my man. I could ask him why he wants to be sergeant, why he thinks he should be sergeant. I could ask him some questions. Let's ask him a question. If you were a counselor, what would you do about the slums? I'd institute strict food rations affecting the merchants, craftsmen, and nobility. I think we'll find we have a lot more food to go around if we divert Bimra's products a little. That will keep the slums happy until the monsoon comes and we can figure out a more permanent solution. Let's ask him what the let's ask what the worst mistake he's ever made is. When I was a teenager, I threw a rock at a Naga child. I don't even remember why. I remember the sound he made and how much blood there was, and I remember him wailing about his eye. His parent, I think it was his father, arrived a second later and looked right at me. I was so scared I couldn't move, and so were they. You see this happen on a human street. I think about that kid nearly every day. The Naga couldn't get away with thrashing me the way I know he wanted to. Sometimes I wish I could go back and do it for him. Let's ask him why I should make him a sergeant. I've been out on the defensive line many times, sir. I've heard the men talk. They're all very loyal, but as a whole, they lack empathy. They need a commanding officer another typo, I think here, shows them the right thing to do, whether they like it or not. I am that man. Here's one Ranveer taught me. If you could fix this city by killing me, would you? No, sir, I couldn't do that. Alright, what is a soldier's first duty? To serve his people. Soldiers are no different than priests, nobles, merchants, craftsmen, farmers. Their job is to keep Bimra whole and healthy. Alright, I think I know enough. Collected, you'll be the first to know, but I've got more thinking to do. I think that I'll say that so that I can speak to Rajesh. Alright. I've spent enough time on a squad. Right now I'm the most qualified candidate for sergeant you have. After a cursory review, I agree. Consider yourself promoted. Let's ask him some questions. Let's ask him, if he were a counselor, what would you do about the slums? To fix them or to protect my political interests? Ooh, interesting. I could say to fix them, to protect your interests, both, or I could say that's up to you. I repeat, what would you do? I'm going to stick with that one. I'd do more or less what VJ's doing. I'd put other people in charge of no-win situations and let them take the blame when things don't work out. Frankly, there's not a lot that can be done for the slums right now. My primary goal would be to survive until there was. What's the worst mistake you've ever made? I don't think I've ever made a serious mistake. Maybe suggesting my brother to join the mercenaries with me. He wasn't cut out for it, and he deserted to the slums. I imagine he's dead by now, but that's his mistake more than mine. Anything else, sir? Why should I make you a sergeant? Partially it's because I'm smarter than the other candidates. Mostly it's because I'm more careful. Mahit wasn't a bad person, and the men liked him, but I never once saw him burden himself with a decision for longer than a few seconds. The same goes for my comrades. I can be decisive without being reckless, and that above all else is what you really need. If you could fix this city by killing me, would you do it? Give me a moment to think it over. Yes. Fair enough. Take me through your reasoning. I thought about whether I could kill you or not and decided that wasn't really part of your question. I decided that if the city were stable, it wouldn't need a man like you, and that the benefits of not needing you vastly outweighed the consequences of losing you. Finally, I decided that I wouldn't be punished for answering honestly. Anything else, sir? What is a soldier's first duty? To follow orders successfully. Let's see, I think I know enough, and I'll think about it and get back to you. Of course. Let's see if we can talk to Sanjay again and ask him the questions, because we didn't do that. Nope, we can't. Too late. Sorry about that, folks. I did not realize that would happen. Alright, well, we need to make our decision, but that's going to have to wait until next time. Until then, I hope you're doing well, hope you continue to do well, and I'll catch you in the next one.